One. Hello, everybody. Seattle Mike Fights with Friends here, and Mike the Truth Jackson has been nice enough to join us today. And I think we got a lot to talk about. A lot of you guys might know him from the UFC. He defeated CM Punk, and recently, in my opinion, got completely screwed over. On that decision. I know you're successful in a lot of things outside of just being in the UFC, but a lot of people know you from there. Can you explain what happened recently with that decision?
Yeah, well, actually, it wasn't something that happened recently. This happened back in 2018, but the news just came out now. Basically, someone went and DM'd the journalist snitching and was just like, "Yo, y'all hear about this fight being overturned?" And it happened probably about 2 to 3 weeks ago. But the reporter or the journalist was really trying to make sure everything. I mean, doing his due diligence, doing the right thing, fact finding and things like that. But the holdup was that they had and then I heard this from several journalists. They all contacted the Illinois Athletic Commission and they never responded. But if you do like an open record search, it kind of fills you in. But what happened is for the fight that happened in Chicago, the end of April, Jeff Nowitzki, who's the head of USADA, sends out an email to all the fighters on the card saying, "Hey, Illinois has a zero tolerance for THC and weed. So if you do smoke," like I said, this is about 4 to 5. It's probably like 6 weeks till fight night. And he said, "Hey, this should give you ample enough time to stop right now and get THC out of your system." Fast forward to October, I get it. I want to say it was probably through mail, some kind of correspondence saying that you failed the drug test for THC. So I ended up like calling him just as I was like, "Yo, like what's going on here?" And the lady tells me that I basically fell with like some trace amounts of THC. It was basically like if I was in the room and someone else was smoking, like that was the levels of which I tested for. They were trying to find me, suspend me, and these things. And I was like this makes no sense. So what they did was they didn't charge me anything or make me pay a fine. They suspended me for 3 months, but they backdated to the fight. So even when I was having a conversation with the person, like the suspension was already up. And that was really the end of it. There was nothing. Because then it was so small. Like it wasn't like I fought high again. I stopped 6 weeks out. I just had like some trace amounts in my system. But because of their zero tolerance or whatever, they decide. And again, this is all like these people make the rules.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the weed is legal there in Illinois. So it's just like I see, and again, people talk about it's like, oh, follow rules. Look, these people who are penalizing athletes are making the rules. Exactly. Like they can easily just say, you know what, we're not going to charge you. I mean, just look at the law, right? Like you have in different cities where, although it may still technically be illegal, you have the police are like, yo, we're not harassing people for weed anymore. You know what I'm saying? So the same sentiment can be said here, with Shikari or, for myself. This is like, hey, what are we doing? Like, it's not because the whole thing is that it's supposed to be performance enhancing. We all know that it's not performance enhancing. There's propaganda that goes to the contrary. But look, that's exactly what it is. It's propaganda and it's lies. So, yeah, for me, it doesn't have that much of a big impact, although it did for the upcoming fight that I'm having against Dean Barry. My pay won't go up because technically it's not a win anymore. So I'm going to get the same pay rate that I did for Punk, which it was supposed to go up after, every win, their win increases. But because of this, my purse won't increase on that. But I mean, if that's the little bit that I got to like suffer, I'm cool with that, charge it to the game. I'm cool with being sort of an advocate of what's going forward and moving forward because I'm in a position that probably a lot of other fighters, can't put themselves in, just based off of who I am as a personality.
Yeah, and well, I'm going to get a little upset for you because I'm just hearing this out because it just really pisses me off when you
Mm,
know you guys are the fighter, you guys are the product. It's not
mm,
unlike anything else. I hear it like, oh, I heard somebody saying the other day like oh, profit margin or whatever from somebody selling something is 20%. It's similar for fighters to like what the UFCs are getting. You guys are the product. Without you, it's nothing else. It's not like you're selling a product for them. Without you
mhm.
guys, there is nothing. So I mean, I don't want to go too far into fighter pay, and maybe we get there. But I mean, I think you guys 50%. I mean, and they're talking about like
Right.
17, 18%. And now, you're going to penalize people for their, personal decisions like 6
Well,
months
I
ago.
will say that the those two are sort of separate issues in a way that the UFC, that the whole issues with the drug testing and things like that have to do with the athletic commission. It has nothing to do with the UFC themselves. Even outside of that, like with USADA, although USADA works hand in hand with UFC, like the drug tests are under USADA and not the UFC. And so I think a lot because someone, even with the turning it to a no contest, I know people was like, yo, like the UFC sucks or something. And then, like I said, that has nothing to do with the organization itself. The only thing is, as far goes, is the fighter pay. As far as like the penalization of like a win coming off or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for clearing that up and being fair about it. And I'm glad things are finally moving as far as that's concerned. I talked
Mm.
to you a little bit before we went online. I'd heard a lot of the propaganda against marijuana. I'll tell you, my mom, she still believes it. She still believes that. She's so brainwashed from so many years. And I was
Right.
mentioning, I was telling you a funny story. I actually took an edible on my stream on my UFC live reaction last night, and then unfortunately, I apologize. I was late for this interview, which I didn't plan that at all, but ended up,
Right.
being pretty ironic. And I
Right.
believed a lot of those lies until I was almost 40 years old. I'm 42. I first tried
Right.
marijuana; it became legal here, a few years ago, and now I realize it's like, wow, alcohol is way worse than this.
Oh, 100%, man. But what people and so for again, this kind of ties into what I'm already doing as far as combating, the systemic racism, on social media, doing my thing as far as, antagonizing racists. All of this goes hand in hand. I mean, the criminalization of marijuana stems back from racism, whether it's racism here in the US or racism worldwide. It's all the same thing, And so what happens is you have this system that is trying to keep people in check and keep these certain powers in place or keep their own power in place. And so they implement these laws, and that's all this is. And we're just at a time where knowledge is so accessible, right? You don't have to rely on an encyclopedia or a newspaper or some of these other periodicals that are so easily manipulated with propaganda. Now we have the internet and free thinkers and social media, and we have people who are presenting facts to people and not just opinions, and is dispelling all of these myths of everything. Not only marijuana, we're seeing what alcohol does. We're seeing what CTE and football does to people right now. So we're just at a perfect time where we're seeing changes from every avenue and every aspect of life. And I feel that, like I say, even from the systemic racism type, fighting that, this all goes hand in hand. So I just feel like I'm in the perfect place, and you just need somebody like me to help with the fight.
Yeah, I do feel, even though there's a lot of work to be done on on a lot of levels, at least I think we are moving in in the right direction finally.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very happy to see pretty much 100%. I mean 100% backlash. From people I know on the over the Shikari Richardson
Right.
decision. I could not find one person that agreed with them, which that made me very happy because I was like, okay, at least we're all on the same page. We all realize this is BS.
Kind of, but that's the thing, man. Like this is one of these issues that people are so they're so stuck in their ways, right? I have two theories that I've come up with, like, and the one that fits this one is no one sees them, or the two is no one sees themselves as a bad guy, and two, no one feels that they're wrong until they've are proven wrong. And now everyone has different ways of altering their mindsets, but some more difficult than others. But that's really what we have here. And it's just at a point where we have to show that these people and their opinions and their mindsets on something that they know nothing about is completely wrong, and they need to change the way they think.
Maybe if they took a couple of edibles, it would open up their mind to show them they're wrong.
Yo, 100%, man. There's some people that I know in my family who've been sort of anti-marijuana because they fed into the propaganda, and recently I sort of actually gave them a piece of edible, and they were a little wilded out a little bit, but they understood what's going on. Their mindset is starting to shift from the myths and propaganda that they were told years ago.
Yeah, I think it is. And I don't know if this is a conversation we would even be having so freely 3 years ago. First time I had you on, I remember in 2018, I wouldn't have been talking about this. And I don't know if either one of us would have felt as freely to talk about it. So I think that's great progress.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I just hope that it continues in that way. And
well, we're at the point where it's the momentum is already going forward. There is no regression right now. I feel it's impossible to regress. You have it where we're in a moment in history where the fuel is behind us and it's pushing us forward, and so we just have to keep fighting this fight, and that's really it.
Yeah. Now, when Shikari Richardson tested positive, it happened to be a black female athlete. Do you think that it would have been any different had that been a white athlete?
100%. We saw it with Michael Phelps, right? And I hate to even call it, and I'm not saying the same sentiments are happening, but the reactions were different. Michael Phelps goes and he gets popped for weed or whatever, and people are encouraging and supporting him. Oh my God, why are y'all harassing him? Blah, 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 right? But when on the flip side, when Shikari pops, people are, oh, you should know better. You shouldn't do that. The reactions, and that was the issue with me, is the reactions are completely different. They both, and again, whether it's right or wrong, that's not even what this is about, right? Yeah. This is about the reactions of people. Again, we don't have the power to change the rules, right? The other people do, or whoever's in control has the power, but we have to voice our opinion. And when you come out and your first thought was like, oh, she should have known better, then you're already going for the other side. It's the same thing with racism, right? It's like, if you're not anti-racist, you're kind of part of the problem. And it's the same sentiment here over this racist system, by the way. But if you're just like, oh, she should have known better, as opposed to, yo, why are we still testing for this? Then you're part of the problem as well. You need to be or you need to be pro athletes having the choice to smoke weed. I'm not saying you have to be pro weed yourself, but you should definitely be like, hey, if that athlete wants to do that, cool. That ain't got nothing to do with me. As opposed to like, oh, they should have known better because these are the rules. Like, the rules are so arbitrary and they're very subjective based on who created the rules, right? So to be fair, we need to have everybody, especially all Black people or anybody who is fighting for equality, because we already understand what these rules are meant for. They're there for minorities and people of color to be oppressed, right? So if you're against that, then you need to be fighting against this as well. You can't play both sides. You can't pick and choose. You can't say, oh, protect Black women, or I'm anti-racist, but then be like, over here when it comes to weed, be like, they should have known better. You can't play both sides. You either one or the other. And now if you're the other side, cool. Now you're the enemy, but you got to pick. You can't be on the fence here with these issues.
Yeah, I think everybody on social media, and that's probably why have heard different things than you, because everybody on social media, nobody wants to come out and say, oh yeah, they should have known better and different things like that. Everybody wants to virtue signal. I'm not saying not everybody, but a lot of people. I mean, I'm in Seattle, and this is a very liberal area, and I probably am not exposed to the variety of people that you are in Illinois, to be honest. But I think a lot of people.
I'm in. By the way, I fought in Illinois. I'm Houston, baby.
Oh, okay.
H-Town.
Oh, you're in Houston now. Thanks for correcting me there. Yeah. Um, um, yeah. So, or is it? Oh, so I think that people, they're not going to say the kinds of things online that sometimes maybe they think in their heart and stuff, and just kind of drives me nuts. A lot of people that they'll act like they're better than other people, or maybe even better than me, because they stuck a BLM sticker on their profile,
right,
trans
for sure.
lives matter, whatever it is. But it's like, when I'm going donating to the food bank, and I'm not trying, I'm actually doing something. I'm actually giving food to people, and go there in the soup kitchens and different things. And my kids went to a lot of a lot of the protests here in Seattle, and I'm gonna get blowback on my own channel for that, which is fucking stupid. Excuse my language, but anybody watching this on my channel, it's like, if you have an issue with that, that's your thing. My kids were there. I was proud of them being there for fighting, for equality and all of the things that this country is supposed to represent. But I think the people that are really speaking and not doing, they really just need to start doing.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I'm gonna agree a little bit with you. So during the protest, I realized that, and also it kind of goes to a bigger picture. Well, the bigger picture is that not everyone is meant to do everything. Like, that's the general theory that I have, right? But to focus more on the protests, when I was out there with I went to two George Floyd basically marches here in Houston, but I went as more of a photojournalist. And as I'm out there shooting, I'm realizing, like, yo, like marching and if I were just out there doing that, that's not for me. I feel that everybody has they have a role to play in this what I call the forever war of racism versus anti-racism, right? Now, I'm cool. Like, if you're someone who sort of virtue signals, you're on the low level of the totem pole, but you're doing something, right? You're doing, like, if all they did was put a BLM, Black Lives Matter sign in their front yard, if that's all that they can do, I'm cool with that, because what's going to happen is someone's going to drive by their house one day and they're going to see the sign, and then they're going to know the person whose yard that is, and it's going to change their mindset. Now, could that person have done more? Of course they could have. But in the meantime, I'll take that over the opposition, because you're doing something. You know what I'm saying? So, and everybody has their level of support of what they can do, So in this instance, me personally, I'm cool with the virtue signaling, because it's a small part that you're doing in the bigger picture.
Okay, yeah, I can respect that opinion. And like you were saying, if you don't mind me asking, why do you think you wouldn't have been out there as a protester? Because at 40 years old, I wasn't out there either. I let my kids out there. My wife took them, but I wasn't there either. But why do you think that is? Do you really have a?
Well, because I feel that I can do more with sort of with my platforms and my gifts that I have, especially as a photographer who can use my platform to document these things. For me, I can't see myself just going out being and again, everyone has their role. Not everyone is a photographer like myself and has a platform to document these things and post and share. So for some people, they can go out there, and because whether it's for whatever reason, work, personal, whatever, for them, they want to be part of the masses, part of this larger crowd and community who's going out and marching in these streets, and they're holding their signs, and they have their faces painted, and they have the apparel, and then they're yelling and cheering or whatever they're doing. There are people who are meant to do that, and as I'm out there and I'm witnessing this firsthand, I'm in the look, when George Floyd's brother and everybody talk, I'm right there. I'm 10 feet away. I'm at the front of the crowd. So I feel the emotion. I can hear the people who are behind me and the thousands and tens of thousands of people behind me. Like I can feel that emotion. And for me, I understand like I have I can take on a bigger task than just marching in the streets. And again, we need that. Not saying that that isn't needed. I'm saying that I can do more. I can do something different and an alternative to that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I know you've been involved in the martial arts community for a long time, but I'm glad that we get to talk about something that's maybe even a deeper passion of yours.
Mm-hmm.
What got you into journalism? We talked a lot about martial arts the last time around. It's been a long time since you were on here,
Mm-hmm.
but what got you into the other side of journalism? I guess.
It started with the like a media personality. I was doing like little blog, like video blogs at events, which were really cool. And then I've always naturally been a good writer. And so I was just looking for something else, and I got into the journalism side of it for as far as I cover events and write little write-ups and things like that. And I do little one-offs. Like I did some stories about there's this guy who was a big troll in the Houston MMA community. I call him Bum One. I ended up fighting him like in a boxing match, but he had a big, I don't want to say an impact, but he left his mark, so to speak, a bad mark. And I felt that was something that needed to be written about, and I did like a little story on that. I'm more of a video guy or a photo guy to tell my stories, but sometimes, I get in the writing mood, and I think that's where I am with the written style of journalism is that it's all of the mood. I'm a moody guy, right? So it all for me, no matter what I'm doing in life, it's all about what mood I'm in. And for me to be writing, I have to be in a certain mood to write. Something has to touch me in a way. But I felt that I had a gift that for that, and there's stories that need to be told that weren't being told properly. And again, I have an access that to especially in fighting, I have an access that not many people have.
Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure. And I'm enjoying some of the fighters coming out and talking about something besides just fighting. It's like I love fighting. I can talk to you about from UFC 1 and even before that all day. I mean, I really enjoy that, but I also enjoy, the conversations that I've got on, and people talk about things like this, or whatever their beliefs are, their family, and things like that. So for those people, sometimes it'd be like, oh, some people just need to shut up and play, or shut up and fight, or shut up and sing, or whatever. It's like that's because you don't have this platform. I
Well,
thought
no,
about
no.
it. It's
So
like
no, I disagree. That's not what it's about. So we've gotten to a place in society where it's all about winning, right? And if you if you disagree with someone, then you're wrong, and it doesn't matter. Now, there are certain things that, yeah, you do disagree about, like, yo, like you're bugging, you need to go sit over there. But there are other things that are that are not as, I don't know, as important or heavy or whatever, that you can have disagreements about and still be cool and go about your day. But what happens is people take the most trivial of things, right? Think about Apple versus Android. Like people have made that a battle. It's like, who cares?
yeah,
Like I'm using the phone, you using the phone. Like
yeah,
why are you arguing about that? And so what happens is that if you simply disagree with somebody these days, and especially if it's something that it may not be important, but they're passionate about, then all of a sudden you're the enemy, and that's a societal thing. That isn't war at this point in life. It isn't toward sports or politics or whatever. Like that's people have made this life. They've made life about winning.
yeah. I think there's something a little deeper there too, and I think some people need some struggle. And I think in the MMA community, obviously, you're out sparring, you're not working out. I'm not fighting right now, but just sparring and struggling and working out and things like that, we get a little more struggle. and especially, you more than me in our normal life. And sometimes I wonder if people just, it's like something embedded into their MMA, or, and excuse me, into their DNA. And it's just like, oh, I got to fight about something. I got to struggle about something. We're used to, chasing down a mastodon, generations back
Mhm.
or whatever that's in our DNA. So I wonder if people just need something to do sometimes.
Well, no, that's definitely a scenario that I'm sure that people will have. But at the end of the day, man, people, it's all about their upgrade and what they're used to, And some people, again, like some people, they need like a struggle to overcome and things like that. I never needed that. Like there's the people that are like who see the fire and they gotta touch it to know it's hot. I'm the guy. I see somebody else touch it. Oh shit, that's hot.
Yeah.
Everybody is different. And again, you're gonna have people who need some kind of opposition in their lives.
Yeah.
But also, I again, the bigger picture is that people are just generally selfish, and they just want to win. I don't need to. I don't have to go and get hard sparring. I need to overcome this, and that's not my personality. It's not in me. Somebody else, sure, but I'm not about that.
Do you think you're
I'm
more
trying to
like
live.
that?
I'm trying to live the most stress-free life that I can live.
Oh, I completely understand you. Yeah. Do you think were you that way when you were younger though, in your early 20s, or were you more like you think you needed more competition and
No,
struggle?
no, no, no. I've always been this way. I feel even as a kid, I just do things because I just enjoy. I do things for shits and giggles. Like that's what we're
Yeah.
here for, man. I'm not like again. I fight because I enjoy. Like I enjoy the competition. I know is one is partly enjoying the competition, but two, like what I do is an art. It's an art form, and what I feel I have a beautiful art that I get to display to the world, especially with my striking with my hands. That's what it's about for me. It's not about I gotta hate the dude. I gotta go out here and I'm ahead to kill this motherfucker or whatever I'm doing. Right? I don't have to do that. I actually do better against people that I know personally, like people that I had not like friends or anything like that, but guys that I've known prior to fighting them, I performed better than people like it was just a random guy that I met.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it's about the competition. It's about just doing some cool shit as opposed to, oh man, I hate that guy.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's the mentality that more fighters have to get to your level, your guys' level, like in the UFC and stuff. I mean, I can speak to, when I was seriously competing in judo, I had a really bad attitude about it. And I mean, I don't mind looking back at some of those things and saying, hey, I was mistaken, in different things. But it's like when I seen Connor, Connor and Dustin, it's like, man, I hate some of the things that he's saying. I hate that he said it public. But on the other hand, I understand saying that to him personally because I had a fire inside
Mhm.
that, and I don't know if that's just my personality. I don't know if it was a weakness or whatever. But yeah, I was definitely a mind guy. I was not going to say much to people, but the only thing you're going to say is I would say, some stupid, intimidating thing in their ear. I might do
Right.
push-ups in front of them when I was younger and stuff, and maybe that's an edge I need, and I think it probably pumped me up more than it did anything for anybody else. So maybe I needed that
And maybe you
motivation.
did, and that's the thing. Like maybe you did, like maybe that was your thing. If it worked for you, it worked for you. It's just, and again, it's about risk and reward. Like, how far do you want to go for this reward, right? Connor, he look, let me tell you sorry. So I know someone who knew Connor pre UFC, right?
Yeah,
And before Connor got to the UFC, the dude was like basically a thug on the streets, trapping, selling drugs, doing his thing, right? If you take someone like that, whose work, their job, their profession is fighting, right? You take someone like that, also with their profession in fighting, there's nothing that's gonna make them change their because they're not. It's not like they're an accountant or they work in some professional career where they have to have these standards. You're fighting. Now you can't go too far. You got to stay in this window. Now he's crossed the line, like he's gone to extremes, but he's had sort of, he, because of who he is, because of these other variables, it kind of allowed him to, come back down a little bit. Think about how many people who can really go and assault someone and throw a dolly through a window and still be in the position that they're in. It's because of, whatever it is, the other variables that kind of put them back in this window of, all right, you can do this and get away with. When you give someone like that a ton of money, all that is going to do is magnify it. No, there's nothing to change. There's nothing being presented to him to force him to change his ways, right? So when Conor goes out here and does all this wild shit, that's expected. Now coming back to the Poirier fight, when the dude is going off just all wild at the mouth, like that should be expected from Conor. Like, because we know, like we've seen his extreme is like he threw a dolly through a window.
Yeah.
So anything under throwing a dolly through a window should be expected because he threw a dolly through a window. Like you should. So when he does things, when he says the shit about Dustin's wife, like, because in my opinion, it's just words, right? So he didn't physically do anything. It's just he just said some mean, crazy shit, right? Saying mean, crazy shit is here. He threw a dolly through the window up here. Yeah. So anything under the dolly through the window, it should be expected. So when Conor does these things like that, whether it's for him, whether it's to psych himself up, or whether it's to intimidate the opposition, that's just his thing. And again, he threw a dolly through the window. So anything under that, you should expect that from Conor. And it's not cool what he said and done. But again, that's him.
Yeah, that's it's wild. Yeah, and I don't even think people in other sports would get away with that. It's like you see Greg Hardy over now in the UFC. He's not over in the NFL. I mean, he's behaved himself in the UFC. As far as I know, he hasn't thrown any dollars through any windows. But
he's a wild boy too. He's behaved sort of in his actions, but his words, especially recently, have been real spicy. He was talking just too wild in terms of Derek Lewis and heavyweights and things like that, and his fighting. And it's like, yo, my dude, like you wild, like you. Cause so, and again, I told the story I was on a stream last night on a little fight watch party. So I interviewed Greg years ago. He was like one of his last amateur fights. Had a conversation with him, and he had seen in a moment. He seemed like a guy who, he went through some crazy shit before. He's trying to turn his life around. I ran into him in the UFC as well. Kind of the same sentiment. So when you have someone who's like, you went through this crazy shit, you beating up on women, and you're saying you're trying to turn your life around, you need to stay on that path, right? Stay on that path of turning your life around. Well, and he's an oddball. He's kind of a weird cat. So I mean, he's called himself like the Prince of Darkness or some shit, the Prince of War or some crazy shit. Like, yo, you're a wild boy if that's your nickname. Like, if that's what you came up with, you're a wild boy. So for him, again, it should be expected that he could potentially do some wild shit because, again, he beat a chick, so that's up here, right? Yeah. So anything under that should be expected. But again, he's spiked up here, but it's every now and then he's kind of been leveled off. Well, now he's kind of spiking back up, talking this shit about Derek and calling him fat and Popeye's like, look what Derek is doing. Look where he is in the company and look where you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, you not, and respect is subjective as well. Like, you can respect who you want to respect, but it's like, you're not there. You're not a Conor McGregor. You can't go out here talking mad spicy about people. Now you can, but again, there are consequences for your actions. And he met some consequences last night, bro. Whew, he got sparked.
Yeah, I did. A lot of people were talking about that kind of being karma for him. He kind of got karma. Conor kind of got karma, and I loved what Dustin Poirier said after that fight. Finally seen some fire out of him, and he goes, "Karma isn't a bitch. Karma is a mirror." I was like, "Whoa."
Yeah,
Nice.
the whole karma thing, like it's a cool little thing to sort of hang your head on. But I just look at it, man, it's like what's gonna happen is gonna happen. I don't really get buy into the karma thing because you got a lot of shitty people out here still getting away with a bunch of shit, being shitty people. I just think what's gonna happen is gonna happen, And for Greg Hardy, for him, it was a moment where he feels he's better than what he really is. And he's coming out here and he's fighting he's because he has to fight higher level guys eventually.
Yeah.
And again, he's fighting these guys. That's 2 in a row for him, and he's fighting a higher level. He's talking mad shit, and it's like, yo, you need to bring it back in a little bit, the same for Conor McGregor. I've always been a fan of his style, and I like his style of fighting. I'm no longer a fan of the mouth work because I feel that he's past a point, of what is in my mind acceptable as given the, I don't want to say trash talk, but using his mouth, he's past the point of what I deem acceptable. I know Dustin. I'm a friend of his, and it wasn't that he just said some shit that they were getting into a fight. Because even in the past, he said some shit, and I can kind of get out of it. But for this one, he said just some mad, disrespectful shit, and that's not something that I can rock with. So for him, again, I don't think it's karma. I just feel Dustin is that much better than him. We found out the game plan. After the first one, Dustin is a different fighter, completely different guy. He's better. Conor has so much shit going on in his life. He's not improving. He tried to pull like a guillotine last night, but you can even tell when he pulled the guillotine. It was like, I don't think he knows what he's doing when he pulled the guillotine. So I don't feel that, and then one of the analysts, I think it was DC, said that, he's been working because, they're trying to hype it up. And it's like, he's working on his takedown defense. He has exceptional. It's like, yo, y'all are just trying to build him in. And I get it as a promotion. That's what you got to do. But that's not the reality. And we saw that last night that wasn't the reality. We saw that once you figure out what it is that Conor's going to do, you just figured it out, and then boom, you implement your game plan, and then you win. Last night with the whole ankle thing, he checked the kick because he was spamming low kick. We were spamming low kick. I was like, oh shit. I was like, yo, Conor found it low. He's spamming low kicks. Finally, he started checking.
Yeah.
So if you're checking, and then you trying to throw some shit, and then you come down wrong. Now, did the twist of the ankle do maybe the majority? Sure, but it was set up by checking the kick that weakened the bone. Like that's what fights do. So people's like, oh, like why would Dustin want to take that as a win? Like that was part of his defense set up that. So 100%, like Chris Weidman, he checked Anderson's kick and it broke his bone. He fell out. And I was like, he's gonna take that, and vice versa. When Chris Weidman checked, he got his shit checked and broke. Like this, like that's part of fighting. If you are incapacitated, can't compete anymore, you lost. I seen a dude lose. He threw up in a fight. I call it westing now, but he lost by vomiting. Yo, you lost. You can't say like dude gets up and he was like, I didn't quit. I just threw up. You lost.
Yeah. No, very true.
A lot, and so when people say like, oh, he couldn't take the win because of broke, like, yeah, he checked the kick and it weakened the bone and he stepped down. That's Conor's wrong because if Conor had to balance, if he's as flowy as he say he is, then his balance should have been good. But what happens is he weakened the bone, you step down, and that's a wrap.
Yeah, and I do think it's kind of funny that they expected like such a different Conor, and some of it is hype, like you said, but I mean, how realistic is it to expect a guy that's been fighting for that long to add things to his game, checking kicks, takedown defense, and things in 6 months? How realistic do you think that is? What can you really change in that amount of time?
Well, everyone is different. I kind of said this in terms of when I fought Punk, that the time going between the Gall fight and our fight, he was limited of what he can learn. But I was saying that from who CM Punk is, being like he's not athletic, his fighter IQ is going to be very limited, his ability to grow in fighting was going to be limited. Conor McGregor is a different cat. like he's like, yo, he's a fighter,
Yeah.
you know. And then again, take nothing away from him, he's still one of the high. He's one of the best at it. He's a very high level fighter. So for someone in his situation, I can see them growing substantially in 6 months' times. But Conor has ego, and egos come into play here, especially in the fight game, especially when you're one of the best in the business. You've been sparking cats out here with that left hand. You know what I'm saying? So you go keep going and keep going. Again, no one can stop the left hand. You know, that it was a kind of the same thing with Cyborg. Or not Cyborg. Well, that was one, but with Ronda. At the time Ronda's doing her thing, and I used to tell people this all the time. At that point in women's MMA, a lot of women were kind of one-dimensional. They may be well-rounded, but they were really strong, either striking or really strong in grappling, right? It just so happened that Ronda was like the queen of the grappling aspect of it, right? So all the women that she was fighting leading up to it, their strong suit was sort of a grappling style, whether it be wrestling, jiu-jitsu, or whatever. So for them, they had to get close to Ronda and so they could be effective. Well, she was just better at the grappling than they were, you know? And so that's where they just they couldn't compete with her there. In the moments when people were worried about the grappling, she hit him with shitty punches and would win, you know, because people were thrown off by that because they knew her grappling was that good. And I told people a year before it happened, I said, yo, because I was watching Holly Holm fight live, and I was like, yo, I said, Holly makes it to the UFC. She's the one to beat her based off of styles. Holly is not she's not trying to grapple at all. She's someone with crazy footwork, and she kicks. And I was like, if anybody can, and I remember I called it. I was like, yo, the kick that she knocked Ronda out with, I saw her knock another chick's head off with. And I was like, whoa, like that was a different cat. But styles make fights, and you have to evolve off of that, you know. And if you can't compete with that, you know, then it is. So with Conor, he's sparking people with the left hand. All right, well, shit, all right, let's not get hit with the left hand. And it didn't get hit with the left hand. Now look at him.
Yeah, and I think Ronda kind of had this thing where she was trying to become something that she wasn't too.
Well, I'm sure that was 100%. You know, with the you know, she's doing whoever was doing her boxing. I saw her do like the pad videos, and I was like, or shadow boxing, or whatever. And I was like, bro, like no, don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, so that was definitely part. But again, for Ronda, adding to what I said about her being at the top, she herself didn't have the ability to grow and get better. She was older. She had bad knees, so it's not like she's going to have to switch up her takedown style. Now, she just had to judo. She couldn't wrestle you because she had her knees to wrestle you. As far as her striking goes, she didn't have the ability to get better in strike. Look, and again, not a knock. It's just what it is. Like I've seen this. I've seen it at a lower level for fighters who've come up. I'm like, bro, like Shorty's been training for like 10 years and she looks the same. Like I've seen this with my own eyes. So I know for a fact what can and can't be done. With Punk, I saw like that's when he threw his punch at me. I was like, oh shit, this guy can't fight. Yeah. Like it wasn't like he was a bad fighter. He couldn't fight when I saw how he was like a step above cardio kickboxing class. Like, oh, he's not a fighter, you know. With Ronda, same thing. And then you found somebody who can put it all together.
Yeah.
And we see what happens.
Yeah. And I came from that judo world, and people have asked me, how does judo translate over to MMA for a long time? Well, I say as a base, I think, honestly.
Oh,
as just a base, if you don't add anything to it, I think wrestling's a much better base.
Oh, 100%. 100%. 100%. Because you have to, again, the style of grappling, you have to be in close quarters to grab somebody to do judo. For wrestling, I don't have to be as close as such. I can kind of be at an arm distance. Again, look, I've seen cats shoot. What's just about set? I've seen cats shoot with like 8 feet and shoot a double. And I was like, yo, how did you cover that ground in such a short time? You know, and it's different. So yeah, the wrestling grappling is way more effective than the judo grappling as a base.
Yeah, no, I think judo's more of a sport just because they've used the gi for so long. I mean, you
Mhm.
use the gi, and I did like some loss prevention. Just apprehending, people that are being dangerous. It might have been shoplifters, but mostly, it was like one of them was, a guy was literally like beating a woman in the store, things like that. You got to take them down quickly. Judo is great for that because, especially in the wintertime, people are
Oh,
wearing baggy
100%.
clothes and stuff. It's like
100%.
literally like there's nobody especially if they're not expecting me and they're not a
100%.
martial artist, they're going down in 2 seconds, and there's not going to
Yep.
be any struggle. But yeah, that's a totally different situation there, more of kind of
Yeah, for sure.
an application. But you have a fight coming up. Finally, it's
Yeah,
been a
we're
while.
trying. Yeah, we're trying to get it back, man. We're trying. It's been kind of rescheduled and hopping around on the calendar for a little bit. We're fighting a cat named Dean Barry, this Irish kid. We were supposed to fight in January on Fight Island. I was having visa issues. Then it got moved to May in Vegas. He was having visa issues. But we've spoken recently. His visa, he finally has it. And now it's just a waiting game to see what card we're going to get put on.
Nice. So why? I know you had visa issues, like you said, and he had visa issues. Was there a reason that they didn't just switch opponents?
Well, they so at one point they did for the second switch, but the switch came. I want to say like 2 weeks before the fight, and it wasn't a smart play for me to take that fight over the Dean Barry. So it was just I just declined that one, and then again it was kind of just a waiting game, and I had like some other minor injuries that flared up prior to them finding the replacement. So I declined. I was like, all right, we're just gonna heal up, make sure we fully recover. And so that's where we're at right now.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, hey, good luck and all that. I wish you
Appreciate it.
well in that fight. What are you working on right now? People can find you out there. Podcast. I know you're on
Yeah.
a few different platforms.
Yeah, right now, you can follow all the social medias at The Truth Jackson on Instagram, Twitter, Mike The Truth Jackson on Facebook. We are, shows are starting to open back up. So, of course, I'm providing some of the dopest combat sports photography out there. But in the moment, we're building a brand called Shits and Giggles.
I love
That's
it.
that's what's popping right now, and we're in the early. It's been going for a little while. I had some, just always got some shit kind of popping up, but I really want to move forward that here the next few months. Hopefully, I can get that launched by the fight announcement, whenever that may be, or at least by fight night. But I'm really the brand itself is going to be dope. I'm really excited about that. But more importantly and more specific, I'm really excited about my snow roach line. It's just I love antagonizing races. It's a passion of mine. It's a hobby that I now want to turn into a business. So that snow roach line of apparel is going to be dope. We're going to do I want to do like video games and some. I don't want to get too deep. I want to do some cool shit with it, and so definitely stay on the lookout for that under the Shits and Giggles brand umbrella.
All right. Well, great. Well, hey, thank you for taking the time there. Sorry about the technical difficulties earlier.
Happens,
Like
man.
like I said, we can blame a little bit of it on the edibles from me. And I got an idea for you. You and Shikari Richardson need to come out with a strand in the stores here. And
So I already have four. I'm already thinking ahead of you. I already have the name of it and everything is ready. But once we get it launched, that's when I'm gonna move forward. But that's one of the ideas I want to go with the brand as well. But I like where your mind is.
my idea was scary Shikari and the truth, but
Okay. I dig it.
you guys maybe do something together. But it's like
Yeah, that'd be a cool little project right there. I'm with it.
all right. Well, hey, thank you once again. Thank you for everything you do. Wish you luck in your
Appreciate it.
upcoming fight. And is there anything you want to say to people out there, fight coming up, or just
Nah, man, just stay tuned again. You follow social media to find out when the fight news. But again, more importantly, man, just if you just want to see me antagonize some racists and snow roaches, follow the social media because that's what I do all day.
All right. Well, I really, really enjoyed your conversation. You're somebody who's very, very easy to talk to. So I hope we get a chance to talk again in the future.
For sure, my guy. Let's hit me up. Let's do it.
All right. Thank you, Mike Jackson, everybody. Seattle Mike, as always, I love you. I respect you. And I'll see your fine asses next time.